Hello there, people. I am so excited to see you all today and to present or not a doctor, Amanda Hill. She's a lawyer, she's a healthcare attorney. And this was a conversation that we had not too long ago that I'm going to share with you today. And I'm so excited to show it to you because I learned so many things from it. Um, there's so many things that go into an employment agreement. And today we're going to talk about the income guarantee. So there was so much that I didn't understand, and so many gems were dropped in this interview. So I'm really excited to show it to you. So let's go ahead and get this started. I'll go ahead and present it here. And here we have it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat, and either I or Amanda Hill may just jump on at some point and answer them. And of course, if you're watching this live, type hashtag live. Let's see, we're having some technical difficulties. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. If you see anything that really you find interesting, please go ahead and type them. There's so much that so many people can gain from this, and it's going to be awesome. I'm Dr. Hochman, the medical matchmaker. As a family medicine physician and huge physician advocate, I help doctors to find the jobs of their dreams. Hi, I'm Laura Hochman, the medical matchmaker. I help match doctors with physician-owned private practices where we can really enjoy practicing medicine again. And today we are speaking with Amanda Hill. Amanda is a lawyer who does a lot of medical work with physicians on contract negotiations, I believe medical malpractice, and she has an awesome course, actually a few courses that we'll talk about a little bit later. But today what I wanted to discuss with Amanda, and I'll let her introduce herself in a little bit, is income guarantee and all the things that go into income guarantee and what that means and what it doesn't mean. A large part of why I wanted to discuss this is because when physicians are looking for jobs, the first year salary tends to be the thing that most physicians look for the most. And so I really want you to know what it is that you're getting yourself into when salary is the number one thing that you're looking at. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love working with doctors, first of all. That's my whole career and my passion. But I deal with a lot of new doctors. And you're right, compensation is the first question, right? I've worked this hard. I have all these loans. How do I get out and make a decent salary? And it's a real challenge. You also have to look at it from the employer's perspective. We're going to dump all this money. They don't have a caseload. They're right out of residency, or they're coming from another state without a book of business. So it's a real interesting dynamic to talk about compensation. And I love it because contracts are my life. So that's all I do. So I can talk all day about how to negotiate your contract and what is in it. But I really am thankful that you're asking me to talk about income guarantee agreements, because I don't think they're well understood. And so I would love to spend some time just trying to explain what they mean and the purpose behind them, because sometimes doctors tell me, oh, the first year the hospital is paying for it. And I always cringe because I'm like, that's not exactly the way it works. So yeah, it's going to be a fun topic today.
So why don't we just start then with a brief overview. So what is the income guarantee arrangement? What does it entail? And why might the hospitals use them?
Okay, sure. So as you know, I'm a health lawyer. And so when doctors come to me and ask for representation, oftentimes it's on the side of the individual doctor. Although occasionally I do have a group that comes to me and says, this is really expensive to hire a doctor. How can we link up with a hospital? So what other side you're on? I assume you're on the side of an individual doctor when you're watching this. So that's kind of the viewpoint that I'm going to look at it. But if you're asked to sign an income guarantee agreement, you need to think of it as a forgivable loan, because that's really what it is, right? It's not free money. The hospital isn't handing out buckets of cash. It means that the hospital is going to guarantee that you get a certain pay the first year. Okay. So if you sign up for a group, there's a lot of different ways you can get paid. And we'll talk about that a little later. But usually the first year you want some guaranteed income. You don't want to go jumping into a job with eat what you kill on day one, because that's really stressful and you haven't worked up a book of business. So if you're going to go in and say, I would like $400,000 on day one, that's a real difficult thing for an employer to do, because there's no money coming in, right? So they're just completely out of pocket, just pouring money at you. And so they go to hospitals, and there is a stark exception for this. Okay. So it's all legitimate. It's not illegal in any means, as long as you follow the rules. So the hospital can give recruitment dollars and guarantee an income to a physician for the first year, as long as it's in writing and all these parameters are met, which usually hospitals are aware of. But what that does is it allows the doctor to have comfort that they're going to get a certain income during their first year, but there are strings attached. And that's what doctors need to know. If they change their mind and then 6 months in, they're like, man, I don't like Memphis, I want to go back to Seattle, then they leave, then they're going to have to pay that back. And that's what I don't know if some doctors really fully understand. Usually there's a zip code range. It's 3 or 4 or more zip codes, and it's usually in an underserved area. And so the zip codes are where you have to stay. And let me just back it up and say the whole reason for this income guarantee agreement started was because it was difficult to lure doctors in certain areas. So hospitals were, with CMS, had many discussions about how difficult it is to get doctors in these certain areas. So they made this rule that basically said, if you're going to come to an underserved area and you can stay in these zip codes and help our people, then we'll guarantee that you'll get paid here, but you have to stay. And so if you go and sign an income guarantee agreement to go to, for example, Memphis, and you're in certain zip codes, then you have to stay for a certain number of years in order to work off that loan. So it's sort of framed in the form of a loan. There's a promissory note that's attached to the document. So that shouldn't confuse you if you think about it like, okay, it's a forgivable loan. And if I stay in these zip codes for 3 years, then I don't have to pay it back. So I think it's a little bit different from, the hospital's paying your income. It's really the hospital's guaranteeing your income for that first year, if that makes sense.
That does. And gosh, I didn't actually understand that it was a forgivable loan. Interesting.
Yeah. It's also, you have to understand that the group is still going to bill and collect for your services. You're not just working for free. And so when the group starts billing through their insurance payers or Medicare and get money in, then all of a sudden you're going to start making money, right, through the course of the year. And at some point, the hospital might not pay anymore. By the end of the year, if you're bringing in enough collections to afford the expenses and your salary, then the hospital's not going to cover that. Because think of it as like they cover the difference of whatever, day one, you're not making $1. So the hospital's going to pay all of your salary that first month. But as every month goes on and you bill and collect and money starts coming in, that difference gets smaller and smaller. So by the end of the year, the hospital might not be paying a dime because the group is making enough to cover your salary. So it's shoring up the gap so that you're going to get paid.
That is so interesting. Okay. So if you were, if just say your income guarantee is X dollars and you have your eat what you kill, so to speak, exceed that. Now the hospital pays 0, but you can still earn more if you have some sort of arrangement.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I mean, it's a beautiful system because it's sort of a win-win for everyone, right? The hospital gets a doctor in the area that they really want. The group gets some satisfaction. They're not going to lose a bunch of money in the first 6 months. So everybody wins. And I have had sometimes there's some big fights about income guarantee agreements, right? Sometimes doctors don't realize they have to pay it back, even though it's there in paper, but often doctors don't read contracts or understand what they're signing. I had a doctor once that moved to a huge city and signed an income guarantee agreement and then decided it was a horrible fit. And 2 months later decided, I can't work here. This is like a bait and switch. The surgery office did not give him any surgeries. I mean, it was just a horrible combination of facts. So he had to leave. And I said, yeah, but you're going to have to pay some of this money back. And he was like, I don't care. I'm leaving. And then we sat down and I was like, okay, but it's a lot of money that you've gotten paid over the course of the last couple of months. You have to pay back. And so he had to really understand that you're going to have to cut a check. And so I said, the alternative is you just find a different job within the zip code range. I mean, there are within your, you can't have a non-compete that restricts you out of that range. So that's another caveat that's really important with income guarantee agreements. It's not that they're prohibited, but you see the logic, right? If the whole point of it is you have to stay within these zip codes and then your non-compete is 100 miles and you can't even live in the zip codes, then you can't do both. So no non-compete is able to trump the ability for you to stay in that, they call it, certain community, of care. There's a lot of words, contracts used for it, but those zip codes, that's really important.
So how can a physician really ensure that the income guarantee arrangement they're entering into is fair and beneficial for their long-term career goals?
Well, I think it's a great tool. Like I said, especially if you want to get into a certain area and the group is like, look, this is the way in. If you want to come to Detroit, or not, that's a bad example because, do people want to go to Detroit? I'm kidding. But like if you want to be in Dallas, Texas, and the only way you're going to get there is if you sign up with the group that's the best in town and they have an income guarantee agreement, then you think, okay, I'm committing 3 years of my life to Dallas, Texas, because I'm not going to go pay back, $500,000. It's just not reasonable. So you just need to realize when you go into that, you might be able to leave this job, but you're not going to be able to leave that area. And I think really you need those full expectations of what you're getting yourself into, because it's, think of it as like a 3-year term. It might not be with this group, but it's going to be with some group, but you are stuck to this area. So if this is not a commitment that you're willing to make, then you might not want to sign one. You might want to get a job that doesn't require you to have there's many employed positions that will pay a flat base salary for the first year, just as a, incentive to get you to come. Or you might be okay with eat what you kill because you're going to make so much at the end of the year that it'll all balance out. So there's options, and not everyone's, is comfortable with this arrangement. It's certainly specific to a certain subset of doctors that are like, yeah, I'm willing to make that commitment. I'm okay with living. I'm not moving. My family's there. It's okay. But you just have to be aware of what they mean.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Are there any other legal considerations that physicians should keep in mind when negotiating or reviewing the income guarantee?
Well, okay, so there's certain expenses they pay to the group and there's certain things they pay to the doctor, right? Like, for example, if the group recruits this doctor from another state and they spend $30,000 on recruitment fees, okay, then the hospital can reimburse that. That's a part of this income guarantee package, is they'll reimburse the group certain expenses. What you don't want, and sometimes I see in these contracts, is the hospital tries to tag that to the doctor. Like if you leave for any reason, not just do you owe the money back, but you're going to owe the money back that the other group, we paid to them as well. And that's not fair. That's not fair to the doctor to have to pay back not just the money he personally received, but also the money that his group received that he never got the benefit of. So you've got to watch that language and edit that out and say, no, he's only responsible for what, specific money went into his paycheck. So that's something that's really important to think through in those agreements, is don't overpromise of what you're going to pay back, because this joint and several liability is very confusing. A lot of what I do is just explain legal terms to doctors. Because it's like, what does that mean? It all looks Greek to me, and so I have to say, okay, it makes sense to me, but that's my world. Just like I look at an EKG and it looks like a bunch of squiggly lines. I don't know what that means. So I have no problem explaining these situations and these words and these, paragraphs to doctors. So like when I say to a doctor, it's joint and several liability, they go, oh, okay, the sky is purple. What does that mean? Exactly. So I have to explain that it means that they can come after you and then come after the hospital. Both are equally responsible for this money. So if there's $50,000 that they're saying you owe the hospital and the group is like, man, we're not going to pay it, they're just going to come after you for it because you're both equally responsible for that money. So you want to make really sure that you're only responsible for the money that you received. And I have had that fight as well, because I've been doing this a really long time. So you want to make sure that that is real clear And hospitals usually will understand that, and the group as well, if you just point it out and say, you're asking my client who moved her whole family and, is willing to take this hit of this loan, but you can't have her, be responsible for your debt. Your debt is your debt. Her debt is her debt. So we have to make sure that's separate.
And I really think that highlights the point of, please get a healthcare lawyer. Please, 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 please. I have so many physicians who either, and I've been guilty of this, of just signing a contract without reading it, or, having a family member or a friend take a look at the contract who maybe is an estate lawyer or something else. And I think there's so much that's missed there. And there's, I've seen those instances where doctors have really just gotten bitten in the butt from having the wrong type of lawyer look at it. So it's so important to have, I don't, it's maybe now 1 minute after you said that joint and something, I don't even remember what it is.
I know, it's confusing.
Let alone like knowing what it means. So having that knowledge is so important. And, I think too, when we're physicians and we have, $500,000 of student loan debt, it's hard to spend that money on a lawyer, but definitely well worth it. So I'm just going to put
I have mixed feelings about this, right? As a lawyer, of course, I'm like, yes, everyone needs a health lawyer. Everyone needs an Amanda in their life. So you can pull me out of your pocket and answer all your questions. But I will also say, I don't want to sound self-serving. Yes, I think a health lawyer is a perfect thing for a doctor because I own my own law firm. But on the other hand, I also want doctors to not feel discouraged, to think you have to always call a lawyer or you'll never get anywhere. I want you to be able to have some basic tools to understand these things. So at least you have a framework, right? It's just like any intelligent person can go online and research preventative care, heart health, things that you can learn to be a better, more educated person, so that when you do go to the doctor, you sort of understand what they're talking about. I want doctors to do that. I want you to have some basic knowledge and not feel like, well, of course the lawyers want you to go to them because they charge you $500 an hour. Of course they say that. But, why can't I just learn some of this stuff on my own and then use the lawyers effectively? Because what breaks my heart is when doctors come to me and they say, I didn't think I could afford a lawyer and I didn't even try to understand it, like you said, so I just signed it. And I said, but do you realize what you signed is that your buy-in, in this ambulatory surgery center of this investment was a $200,000 buy-in. And the exit clause says you get $100 upon exit. Did you realize that? And they were like, nope, sure didn't. And that's what breaks my heart. I just don't want doctors getting in situations where they truly did not understand what they were signing. Not that it wasn't written in a way that they could have, figured it out, but it's just a different language. So try to educate yourself as much as you can, kind of like this podcast, right? Now you know a lot more about the, context of an income guarantee agreement. So at least you understand it a little better when it's put in front of you and you don't just go, oh, I guess that's standard, sign. And then you decide to leave in a year and they go, well, now you owe us back $475,000. And you're like, what? So anyway, I want to empower everyone listening to try to learn as much as you can about like fraud and abuse and contracts and things that can hurt you, because then you can utilize lawyers when you really need them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're smart people. We can do some research. That brings me to a point about your courses. So you have some courses on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about those courses and how they can help out?
Sure. So I've been practicing law for a really long time. I know I look so young, but 23 years I've been doing this and helping doctors, and it's been a really rewarding career. I love it. But what I sensed, and it was in the middle of COVID that it actually happened, because I was getting doctors calling me crying, sobbing, burned out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's too overwhelming. And they would get themselves in the same problems over and over. Every phone call, I was saying the same things, the same lessons, the same problems would occur. And I said, there's got to be a better way. Time out. We're not teaching doctors to avoid these problems. We're just fixing it on the back end and charging them a ton of money, which almost seems like you're adding insult to injury. Like, not only did the doctor get into a big problem, but now they have to pay someone to dig themselves out of the hole, which seemed wrong. So I started this company sort of out of necessity. I thought if I built it, they're going to come, because I took every problem that I could think of that happened to a doctor and put it into a training video. Like, hey, how to stay out of trouble, how to negotiate your contract, how to deal with people at the office. What about a bad review? What about a bad patient? What about a partner that's harassing you? These are real things that happen. So that's when I created Guard My Practice and the courses. And basically it's training platforms for doctors. It all comes with CME, which is, also helpful. You can get it paid for if you have CME money, but mostly it's a mission. It's a mission of mine to help doctors understand hard things. And so they avoid major problems. And yes, of course, if you get yourself in hot water, you need to get a great lawyer. But, everything just can't be go to your lawyer. It's just like, if you say, well, how do I stay healthy heart-wise? We go, well, I don't know, see a cardiologist. It's the only way. It's like, you don't jump straight to heart surgery. You try to have preventative measures. And that's what I'm trying to do, is have preventative measures for doctors to where they can say, I never knew that I was at risk of the anti-kickback statute violation. I thought I was following HIPAA. I didn't know these were 3 red flags I needed to be paid attention to. Just things that I see doctors over and over and over get themselves in trouble. And it's, besides just getting themselves in trouble, what about just basic negotiating? I mean, contracts are so important to a doctor, not just their employment contract, right? But so many different contracts they're going to look at. And sometimes they think, oh, I'm pretty good at reading things. I can figure it out. And like you said, they don't understand certain terms. They get themselves in trouble. And then they don't know how to negotiate. Some doctors barrel in there and demand things and come across as a real bully. Some doctors don't ask for a thing. And I don't want to be sexist, but sometimes women fall in this category. It's like, oh, I don't want to ask. I don't want to make them mad. I don't know if they will give that. I don't dare, think that that's appropriate. And so it's all over the map. And so I wanted to give a roadmap to teach them how to negotiate, how to be strong, how to not come across as a bully, because there's a real misconception that you can't really ask for things that you want because it's just going to come across brassy. And so there is a way to, strategize that so you can sort of get what you want and also be really nice and, make yourself attractive to your, future employer.
Exactly. Yeah. Negotiating should be a win-win for both sides. So that's awesome. So everyone should check out guardmypractice.com. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really hope that everyone that's watching learns something. And please comment. Feel free to comment with questions. Amanda Hill or I will be happy to jump on and answer any questions.
Absolutely.
This is not legal advice, technically, right?
Nope, not legal. General advice. General advice.
Kind of like I'm not giving medical advice, even though this had nothing to do with medicine.
Right.
So yeah, please feel free to comment. Please like it. Please share it with all your doctor friends. It's so important. And I work with physician-owned practices that are really, truly good to their physicians, one of which actually, or 2 of which have income guarantee that I'm working with right now. So very important to know. And thank you for that information, because I feel
you're welcome.
Better equipped now to speak to the practices and the physicians that are looking at these awesome jobs. So thank you so much for being here. And until next time.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right, there we have it. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to go ahead and answer them. Amanda Hill can also answer as well. And so far I have a comment about my shirt. So, so if you want a Heart of a Doctor shirt or a Do No Harm coffee mug, I put the website in the comments there. But if you are at all interested in figuring out what's out there as far as physician jobs, or looking for a new job, or maybe you're looking for a physician, let me know. My website is www.happydayhealth.co. I do my best to keep it updated. Under current openings, we have a list of all the jobs that are currently open, and there are plenty more. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can just contact me through my website. So again, that's www.happydayhealth.co. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and go check us out. All right. Bye.